Meanwhile, beneath Arya's touch, Alexander's heart quickened its pace, responding to her proximity with a surge of emotion. The warmth of her hand against his chest sent a shiver of anticipation coursing through him, his body instinctively leaning into her touch. With each gentle stroke of her fingers, he feels a sense of connection and longing, the electricity of their contact igniting a spark of desire within him. As Arya's hand moved downward, trailing along his chest and abdomen, Alexander's breath hitched, his pulse racing with the intimacy of their shared moment. Alexander couldn't help but smirk in the darkness as he felt Arya's touch gradually moving lower, her fingers tracing a path down his arbs towards his hips. Clearing his throat to break the spell of the moment, he couldn't resist the urge to tease her. "You seem to have quite the adventurous spirit, sneaking around the kitchen in the dead of night," Alexander remarked, his tone laced with playful banter. "Although I must admit your touch is far more exhilarating than any midnight snack I could have hoped for." Arya blinked, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment as she realized the implications of her actions. She quickly withdrew her hand and pushed him away slightly. Alexander's smirk widened as he reached out to switch on the kitchen light. Illuminated by the soft glow, he looked down at Arya, noting the blush that colored her cheeks. She looked adorable in her shyness, and he couldn't help but wonder what she was doing in the kitchen that time of the night. I'm sorry. I was just thirsty. So I went to the kitchen to get water, and I didn't know you would be there. I shouldn't have touched you. I didn't know what got into me," Arya stammered out nervously, avoiding his gaze. She looked down, and that was when she noticed he was putting on no t-shirt but a sweatpant. Alexander smiled warmly, his eyes filled with affection as he observed Arya's flushed and shy demeanor. She was simply adorable, and he couldn't help but feel the urge to pull her into his arms once again. "It's all right, Arya. I'm also at fault for bumping into you," he reassured her gently, his tone comforting. His gaze then shifted to the shirt she was wearing, a curious expression crossing his features. "I notice you're still wearing my shirts. I thought Jessica added nightwear to the clothes she chose for you," he remarked, his voice tinged with curiosity. He wasn't upset that she was wearing his clothes. In fact, he found it endearing. He simply wondered if Jessica had overlooked something when selecting Arya's wardrobe. Arya looked up at him, her expression a mixture of uncertainty. Was he angry because she was wearing his clothes again? Wasn't he the one who gave it to her? "I wore it because it felt more comfortable. I will go remove it if it makes you angry to see me in it," she explained, her voice tinged with apprehension as she prepared to leave. Alexander's smile softened at her words, and he reached out to gently grasp her wrist, stopping her from leaving. "No, you got me wrong, Arya. I didn't mean it like that. What I mean is, I'm not angry because you wore my clothes," he explained, his tone warm and reassuring. "In fact," he continued, his voice dropping to a husky whisper as he leaned in closer, "I rather like seeing you in my shirt. It suits you." His gaze lingered on her, a hint of desire flickering in his eyes as he spoke. Arya's cheeks flushed at Alexander's words, a mixture of surprise and delight crossing her features. She couldn't believe he actually liked seeing her in his shirt. It made her feel special, cherished even. Her eyes then wandered, unintentionally fixating on Alexander's well-built arms. It was a sight she'd never encountered before. Alexander's physique far surpassed anything she had ever seen, especially compared to Ryan. "Thank you," she murmured softly, her voice barely above a whisper. A shy smile tugged at the corners of her lips, betraying her inner turmoil. After a moment of staring at each other in the silence, Arya felt a flush creeping up her neck under Alexander's intense gaze. Clearing her throat nervously, she said, Excuse me. I think I'll just get some water." With a quick smile, she turned away and hurried to fetch the water, grateful for the opportunity to break the tension. Arya's hands trembled slightly as she filled a glass with water from the faucet, her heart still racing from the intensity of the moment with Alexander. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she lifted the glass to her lips, feeling the cool liquid soothing her parched throat. With each sip, she savored the refreshing sensation, allowing it to calm her nerves and ease the lingering tension. As she drank, her mind replayed the encounter with Alexander in the kitchen, his playful remark echoing in her thoughts. Despite the initial shock, she couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement at his flirtatious gesture. Finishing the water, Arya set the empty glass down on the countertop with a soft sigh, feeling a sense of relief wash over her, although she could still feel his gaze on her from behind. "Are you done?" Alexander asked. "Yes, I am," Arya said with a smile, turning to face him. "I'll go back to my room." "Good night, cutie," Alexander said playfully as Arya was about to leave. She turned to look at him in shock, then smiled. "Good night," she replied softly. "I just get good night?" "That's not fair," he protested playfully, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Arya chuckled at his antics, unable to resist his charm. "All right then. Good night, Xander," she said with a sweet smile, using the new nickname. Alexander's eyes widened in surprise at the unexpected endearment. "Xander, huh? I like it," he mused aloud, his smile widening into a grin. No one had called him that. "Sleep well, Arya, because you need all your energy to face your enemies tomorrow," he added. Arya's smile faded, and a look of determination hardened her features as she met Alexander's gaze. Her enemies? Arya thought, confusion clouding her mind. She had prepared herself to confront Ryan at LH Star tomorrow, but the mention of enemies plural left her wondering, was there someone else she needed to be wary of besides Ryan? Only Ryan was the enemy she knew she had who was working at LH Star. Alexander's smile held a hint of knowing as he observed Arya's reaction. "I heard from a valid source that Isabella would also be coming to work in LH Star tomorrow morning," he revealed, his words dripping with intrigue. "So, Arya, you aren't just going to be working with one of your enemies, but both of them. Are you ready to face them with your new look?" The revelation sent a shiver down Arya's spine, her determination hardened even further. With a resolute nod, she met Alexander's gaze squarely. "I'll be ready." Monday morning had arrived, and the clock struck 7:30 a.m. It marked the beginning of a crucial day for Arya, the initial step in her revenge plan. Today would be the first phase of her revenge plan, and she was ready to make her enemies tremble with fear. With Ryan and Isabella working at the same company, Arya saw this opportunity not only as a chance to reclaim what was once stolen from her, but also to assert her newfound strength and resilience. No longer would she allow herself to be manipulated and sidelined. This time, she would rise above it all. Sitting in front of the mirror, Arya couldn't help but marvel at the work being done on her hair. The famous Seattle hairstylist, Antonio Delgado, worked his magic on her long black hair, turning it into a masterpiece of elegance and sophistication. Alexander had insisted on this luxury, wanting her to look nothing short of exquisite for her first day. And Arya, eager to assert her newfound confidence, embraced the opportunity wholeheartedly. She knew that her radiant appearance would serve as a silent but potent message to Isabella, a reminder that she was no longer the timid girl who could be pushed around. Under Antonio's expert hands, Arya's hair transformed into soft waves that cascaded down her back, adding volume and texture to her locks. The subtle off-center part framed her face delicately, accentuating her features with a touch of allure. Antonio's skillful touch didn't stop there. He incorporated jeweled hairpins and a delicate hairband to add a touch of glamour to the overall look. As Arya admired her reflection in the mirror, she couldn't help but feel a surge of confidence wash over her. This was her moment to shine, and she was determined to make the most of it. With her hair styled to perfection, Arya was ready to face whatever challenges awaited her at LH Star. This polished and sophisticated look would serve as her armor, a visual representation of the strength and resilience that lay within her. As she stepped out of the salon and into the world, Arya knew that she was more than ready to take on whatever obstacles came her way. Today marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one where she would no longer be a victim, but a victor in her own right. Antonio couldn't help but compliment Arya on her natural beauty and elegant features. "You have exquisite hair," he remarked, his tone filled with admiration. "It's a pleasure to work on such a canvas." Arya didn't expect a compliment from him, but smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Antonio," she replied. "Just Antonio would do," he told her with a friendly smile. Who had ever thought that one day she would have Antonio Delgado style her hair, and to also have him compliment her? Antonio Delgado was renowned for his ability to create stunning looks for high-profile clients. Why was Alexander doing all of this for her? He had no obligation to help her. After her hair was styled to perfection, Antonio smiled at her before leaving the room. Arya looked at herself in the mirror and couldn't believe it was really her. This style of hair fits her so much. She stood up from the chair and slipped into her outfit for the day. An office slim bodycon long-sleeve high-waist pencil skirt paired with a crisp white V-neck long-sleeve shirt. The ensemble exuded professionalism and sophistication, perfectly complementing her sleek hairstyle. She adorned herself with a necklace adorned with tiny diamonds, adding a subtle sparkle to her attire. Completing the look was a Chanel purse and white high heels, adding a touch of luxury and elegance to her ensemble. With her hair styled to perfection and her outfit exuding confidence, Arya was ready for her job interview at LH Star, and she was going to make sure she got the job. This was her moment to shine, and she was determined to seize it with grace and poise. Arya smiled to herself, feeling a surge of confidence as she admired her reflection in the mirror. She looked so different, so new, a far cry from the timid and ordinary girl she once was. With her hair styled to perfection and her outfit exuding professionalism and sophistication, she was ready to take on whatever the day had in store for her. Stepping out of her bedroom and into the living room, Arya scanned the space for Alexander, but he was nowhere to be found. She wondered if he was still in his own room, perhaps busy with his own affairs. Just as she was about to turn away, Alexander walked into the living room, his eyes widening in amazement as he took her in from head to toe. He froze in his steps, mouth agape, clearly stunned by her transformation. Alexander stood there, momentarily speechless, his mouth agape as he took in the sight before him. Arya couldn't help but feel a rush of satisfaction at his stunned expression, knowing that her transformation had left him utterly captivated. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as they simply gazed at each other, the air filled with a palpable tension. And in that moment, Arya knew that she had succeeded in making her mark, not just at LH Star, but in Alexander's heart as well. Finally regaining his composure, Alexander took a step closer to Arya, his eyes never leaving her radiant form. With a soft yet incredulous tone, he uttered, "Arya, you look breathtaking." His words hung in the air, carrying a weight of genuine admiration and awe. Arya felt a warmth spread through her at his compliment, her heart fluttering with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Unable to contain his amazement any longer, Alexander reached out to gently brush a stray lock of hair from Arya's face, his touch tender and reverent. "I've never seen you look more beautiful than you did in your wedding gown," he confessed, his voice tinged with sincerity. Arya's cheeks flushed with color at his words, a shy smile gracing her lips. She felt grateful to Alexander for his support and didn't believe he thought she was beautiful in her wedding dress. "Well, thank you. How do I get to work? And what will I do? Who am I going to give my documents to? What is the company culture like? Are there any specific protocols or procedures I should be aware of? I have a lot of questions to ask, but I'm not sure where to start from because you won't seem to have an answer for them since you don't work at LH Star," Arya said, letting her worry show. As Arya voiced her concerns and questions, Alexander's expression softened, his brows furrowing slightly as he listened attentively. His eyes reflected a mixture of understanding and patience, conveying a sense of reassurance to Arya. There was a hint of warmth in his gaze, suggesting a genuine desire to help her navigate the uncertainties she faced. Despite his calm demeanor, there was a subtle twinkle in his eyes, hinting at a hidden knowledge or amusement beneath the surface. It was as if he held a secret, waiting for the right moment to reveal it. Don't worry, cutie. I may not work at LH Star, but I've made arrangements to ensure everything goes smoothly for you. As for transportation, a driver will be waiting to take you to work. Your job responsibilities will vary based on the role you're interviewing for, but I'll provide you with a brief overview. You can give your documents to Richard James, and don't worry, he will be expecting you," Alexander said, reassuringly. Arya's expression softened, her worry easing as Alexander reassured her. She nodded gratefully, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. Her brows suddenly furrowed slightly as she pondered Alexander's confident assurances. But how come he was so sure of what he was saying? Why did he think Richard would be waiting for her? Alexander, she began hesitatingly. How do you know Richard will be expecting me? Did you, inform him about my interview? Arya inquired, her tone tinged with curiosity and a hint of suspicion. Alexander felt a lump form in his throat, a tightness that seemed to constrict his breath. Concealing his true identity from her proved to be more daunting than he initially anticipated, especially now that she was his wife. He was willing to go to great lengths to aid her in seeking justice, even if it meant risking her suspicion. However, now was not the opportune moment. No one else should be privy to this secret, least of all her. He resolved to assist her covertly, working behind the scenes to support her in her quest for revenge. Yet, there was one crucial detail he had yet to disclose to her. He couldn't shake the feeling that she bore a striking resemblance to himself, a reflection of the confidence he had always yearned for. How he wished he possessed her unwavering determination to confront those who had wronged him. He longed to shed the facade he had constructed, to reveal his true self to the world. However, his insecurities held him back, preventing him from embracing his authentic identity. Even his own father lacked faith in him, compounding his fears of being branded as an illegitimate child, a label that haunted him incessantly. The thought of facing ridicule and scorn from those around him filled him with dread, amplifying his sense of isolation and alienation. It was a bitter irony, Alexander mused, that the ones who should offer love and support were often the source of his deepest pain. The inherent flaws of human nature are manifested most cruelly within the confines of his own family, leaving him to grapple with feelings of betrayal. Even if he couldn't show them who he really was, he wouldn't let them hurt him anymore. Arya looked at him worried and wondering why he looked sad while deep in thought. Alexander shook himself out of his reverie, his eyes refocusing on Arya with a warm smile. "There's an answer to your question, but not today," he replied cryptically, his voice tinged with a hint of mystery. "When the time is right, you'll have your answer. For now, focus on getting ready. Today you'll have the chance to make them." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Feel your presence," he added, his tone firm and resolute. "Now, get ready. It's time to show them what you're made of." A sleek black BMW glided towards the front of LH Star, its polished exterior reflecting the morning sunlight. The imposing glass facade of the building loomed overhead, its architectural grandeur a testament to the company's prestige and success. A row of neatly trimmed bushes lined the entrance, adding a touch of greenery to the corporate landscape. Inside the car, Ryan and Isabella sat side by side, the plush leather seats enveloping them in luxury. Isabella, exuding sophistication and elegance, wore a form-fitting black gown that accentuated her curves. Her designer handbag and stiletto heels added a dash of glamour to her ensemble, while her radiant smile bespoke confidence and poise. "Thank you for driving me," Isabella said sincerely, her eyes sparkling with pride. She wanted everyone to recognize her status as the girlfriend of one of LH Star's high-ranking employees. "You don't have to thank me for anything, my love. I will do anything for you. You know that," Ryan murmured affectionately, his eyes tracing the elegant contours of Isabella's figure. Today, she looked particularly stunning, and Ryan couldn't help but feel a surge of pride knowing she was his partner. When Isabella mentioned her father's unexpected suggestion for her to work at LH Star, Ryan felt a surge of confusion. He couldn't comprehend why her father would veer her away from inheriting Johnson Financial Group, a coveted position that had fueled Ryan's aspirations. Initially, this unexpected turn of events nearly stirred anger within him. After all, he had set his sights on the company's future, even though he already held a respectable position at LH Star. However, he quickly suppressed any frustration, realizing that supporting Isabella's endeavors was paramount. In fact, the prospect of marrying Isabella and potentially gaining influence over Johnson Financial Group seemed akin to hitting the jackpot twice for Ryan. It offered him the chance to achieve his ambitions while solidifying his relationship with Isabella, a win-win scenario that he eagerly embraced. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Isabella asked, her lips curving into a fake, innocent smile. She already knew the answer but wanted to hear it from him. "I can't help but notice just how beautiful you look today," Ryan replied, his gaze lingering on her with admiration. Isabella's playful expression shifted to a mock frown, her brows furrowing in feigned annoyance. "Does that mean I don't look beautiful on other days?" she teased, her tone laced with playful banter. Ryan shook his head, his gaze softening as he gazed at Isabella lovingly. "No, my love. That wasn't what I meant. You look beautiful every day. Today, I'm just happy to show everyone in the office that my woman is the most beautiful," he said, his eyes sparkling with pride. He chose not to mention his underlying motivation for showcasing their relationship, a desire for recognition and status in the eyes of his colleagues. Isabella nodded in understanding, returning Ryan's affectionate smile with one of her own. "That's enough, babe. Let's just get down from the car," she suggested, her voice warm and inviting. As Ryan stepped out of the car, he moved to open the door for Isabella, his movements deliberate and chivalrous. Isabella descended gracefully from the vehicle, her black gown hugging her curves in all the right places. Paired with designer accessories and sleek stiletto heels, she exuded an aura of sophistication and allure that captivated onlookers. Ryan gracefully stepped out of the car and gallantly opened the door for Isabella, who emerged slowly, exuding elegance in her black gown that hugged her curves perfectly. Her designer bag swung effortlessly from her arm, matching the sophistication of her attire. With each step in her stilettos, she commanded attention, radiating confidence and poise. As Isabella linked her arm with Ryan's, their connection was apparent to anyone watching. She gazed up at him with adoration, mirroring his affectionate smile as they made their way towards the entrance of LH Star. Onlookers couldn't help but speculate about the identity of the glamorous couple. "Isn't that Isabella Johnson? Is she dating Sir Ryan?" one of the workers whispered to her colleague as they passed by the reception area, their curiosity piqued by the sight before them. "They look so good together. I never knew Ryan was dating someone," another added with a hint of surprise. "Isabella looks so beautiful, and Ryan also looks handsome," chimed in another colleague, echoing the sentiments of those around them. Their attention was momentarily diverted when a sleek, white SUV pulled up in front of LH Star, drawing gasps of admiration from those nearby. The vehicle exuded luxury and sophistication, its pristine exterior catching the sunlight in a dazzling display. "Wow, I wonder who owns that car," remarked one of the workers, her eyes fixed on the impressive vehicle. "Must be Mr. Richards," one of the workers speculated, drawing Isabella's attention back to their conversation. Turning her gaze towards the sleek SUV, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at the ostentatious display of wealth, but deep down, Isabella couldn't deny the fascination that gripped her at the sight of the latest SUV model. Its sleek lines and pristine finish exuded an air of sophistication and opulence that was hard to ignore. As she pondered the identity of the driver, Isabella couldn't shake the feeling of curiosity that welled up within her. Who could possibly be behind the wheel of such a luxurious vehicle, and what business did they have at LH Star? Despite her attempts to appear unaffected, Isabella found herself drawn to the allure of the car's prestige and elegance. Ryan gazed at the car with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. Its sleek lines and polished exterior hinted at luxury and sophistication, qualities that he aspired to attain someday. He imagined himself behind the wheel of a similar vehicle, perhaps even one more extravagant, cruising down the streets with pride and confidence. However, as his eyes lingered on the car, a sense of perplexity crept in. This didn't seem like the type of model Mr. Richard, the CEO of LH Star, would typically use it. Just then, a man in a black suit stepped out of the driver's seat. An air of anticipation filled the surroundings. Observers assumed he was the owner of the sleek vehicle, impressed by his confident demeanor and authoritative presence. However, their assumptions quickly shifted when the man proceeded to open the passenger's door with a fluid motion. A slender leg adorned with designer high heels emerged, followed by the graceful figure of a woman. In that moment, Ryan's breath caught in his throat, his eyes widening in disbelief as he beheld the figure emerging from the car. His gaze remained fixed, his mind struggling to process the surreal sight before him. He couldn't shake off the overwhelming sense of astonishment coursing through him. It was as if time had momentarily frozen, allowing him to absorb the shocking reality unfolding before his eyes. The last person he expected to encounter, especially in such a grand fashion, stood before him. Clad in sophisticated attire and emanating an aura of elegance, it was none other than Arya. Ryan's disbelief was palpable as he grappled with the unexpectedness of the situation. He couldn't believe his eyes, couldn't comprehend how Arya, of all people, could be standing there, adorned in luxurious attire, stepping out of a sleek, high-end car. It was a scene straight out of a fantasy, a stark contrast to the Arya he once knew. Isabella mirrored Ryan's stunned expression, but hers was tinged with an even deeper intensity. It was as if the ground should open up and swallow her whole from the shock of what she was witnessing. Anger and jealousy surged within her, threatening to consume her thoughts entirely. How could Arya possibly look like this? What was she doing here, dressed in such expensive attire, adorned with designer labels? Who had provided her with these luxuries? Could it be Alexander? No, it just can't be. These questions swirl in Isabella's mind, fueling her resentment. Isabella seethed with rage as she observed Arya's graceful stride towards them. Could this truly be the same Arya they once knew? She seemed transformed, emanating confidence and elegance at every step. Ignoring their presence, Arya walked past them with an air of confidence, completely ignoring their presence as she made her way into LH Star. Ryan swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat as his gaze remained fixed on her retreating figure, silently observing her every move with a mixture of astonishment and apprehension. The voices of the workers brought them back to reality. She looks so sophisticated. I wonder who she is, remarked one of the workers. Perhaps she's a wealthy customer, suggested another. What is she doing here? Isabella asked through gritted teeth. Stunned by Arya's presence and new appearance, Ryan turned to Isabella. What do you mean? He asked. Isabella's frustration boiled over as she turned to Ryan with clenched teeth. Are you blind? Or didn't you just see Arya come down from that car and walk into LH Star? She yelled, her facade of innocence crumbling in the face of her anger. Ryan looked at her with a raised brow. Why was Isabella yelling? He had never seen her like this before, so angry and bitter. Yes, I saw her, Ryan replied, his gaze narrowed at her. Why didn't you do anything? What is she doing here? Isabella asked, angry. Why would she look like that? Isabella suddenly realized she had reacted rashly and shouldn't raise any suspicion from Ryan. I just hope she isn't here to cause any troubles for me. Does she know I'm here to work? Maybe that's why she is here. But why would she just come here like that? Is she trying to show off? Isabella muttered, attempting to put on an act that she cared for her sister and hoped Arya was okay. Ryan, surprised by her outburst, suddenly looked at her with a worried expression. I won't let Arya do anything to ruin you. She might have come here for other reasons. Let's just proceed inside, Ryan said, trying to reassure Isabella. Isabella nodded and followed him inside. As they entered, they saw Arya being shown the way into Richard's office by the secretary. Isabella couldn't help but frown. Why is Arya going into Richard's office? Isabella thought. Is she also here for the job interview? Ryan raised a brow, voicing his thoughts as he watched Arya. What job interview? Isabella asked. The administrative assistant suddenly resigned 2 days ago. So the company is in need of an administrative assistant, but it hasn't been long since they posted the job. I don't know how she found out about the empty position, Ryan explained. Isabella widened her eyes. So do you mean the reason why Arya is going into that office is for the job interview? Isabella asked, already getting angry. I think so, Ryan said with a frown, puzzled by Arya's sudden interest in working there. That can't be, Ryan. Why do you think she would suddenly want to work here? Isabella said, worried and angry. Ryan looked at her, unsure of what to say. It is because she wants you back, my love. Don't you see what my sister is trying to do? She won't leave you alone. She wants to be by your side even after she knows we are together, Isabella said, faking tears. I thought I apologized and she forgave me. How come she wouldn't let us be happy? Isabella continued. Ryan clenched his jaw at the possibility of Arya being there to hurt Isabella. So she wants me back, Ryan scoffed in his thoughts, feeling disgusted by Arya's actions. He wouldn't let her do anything to hurt Isabella. Ryan turned to Isabella, his expression softening as he reached out to gently touch her arm. My love. Listen, he began. I know this is tough, but you have nothing to worry about. I'm committed to you and nothing and no one can come between us. Whatever Arya's intentions are, they won't affect us. I promise to protect you, always. It's you I want and not that wench, Arya. I promise. Ryan told her. Isabella didn't know why, but she just didn't believe his words. But if he says she was the one he wanted, then that means she has won against Arya, and if Arya is really here to beg Ryan to be together with her, then she has failed. Just then, a woman dressed in a corporate suit approached them. Good morning, sir. The documents you asked me to prepare on Friday are ready. They are to be submitted to the director's table in the next 5 minutes, the woman said professionally, her eyes briefly glancing at Isabella before focusing on Ryan. Ryan smiled. Thank you, Maria, he said. Let me introduce you to my fiancée, Isabella Johnson. Isabella, meet Maria, the administrative manager, Ryan introduced. Isabella forced a polite smile. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Maria, and thank you for the warm welcome, she said, masking her true feelings. Maria raised a brow from behind her large eyeglasses. Mrs. Maria? Do I look that old to you? She said sarcastically. It was obvious she didn't like Isabella at that moment. Ryan chuckled awkwardly, trying to diffuse the tension. Don't mind my fiancée, Maria. She didn't mean it that way. I'm sure she must have thought you were married or something. Maria raised a brow. But I'm not wearing any rings, she replied with a hint of sarcasm. I'm sure you misunderstood Isabella. She won't do anything to offend anyone. She is a nice person. You'll get to like her once you get to know her, Ryan said, attempting to smooth things over. Thank you for saying good things about me, my love, Isabella interjected, her tone dripping with insincerity. Maria scowled, choosing not to respond as she walked away, leaving Isabella to roll her eyes. Aren't you her superior? How come you're giving her so much respect? Isabella suddenly asked Ryan, her scowl deepening as soon as Maria left. She is a distant relative of Mr. Richard, and rumor has it in the company that she might know who the CEO of LH Star is. That's why I'm being nice and polite to her. Otherwise, why would I be nice to that? To a plain Jane like her? Ryan explained to Isabella. Isabella's mind raced with cunning thoughts as she contemplated Mariah's potential knowledge of the CEO's identity. If she really knows who the CEO is, then I must get close to her as soon as possible. Isabella schemed internally. I must make her want to trust me with everything, so that she'll reveal the CEO's identity. Once I have that information, I can exploit it to bring down LH Star and reclaim my position at Johnson Financial Group, perhaps even securing a promotion. A sly smile crept across her lips as she relished the devious plan forming in her mind. She hasn't even started working, yet she already has a clue about where to get her information from. Someone like Mariah seemed easy to manipulate. Turning her attention back to Ryan, Isabella decided to play the role of the supportive partner. You know, Ryan, Mariah isn't all that bad, Isabella remarked, feigning sincerity. She just needs the right friend to guide her and maybe a bit of help with her fashion sense. Ryan smiled affectionately at Isabella's attempt to find the good in others. That's one of the things I love about you, Isabella, he replied. You always see the best in people and are willing to lend a helping hand. Isabella's reply was carefully crafted to maintain her facade of innocence and calmness. Thank you, my love, she replied sweetly, her tone dripping with faux innocence. I believe in giving everyone a fair chance. After all, kindness goes a long way in building relationships, doesn't it? I'm sorry, my love, but I won't be able to stay with you through the interview, as I need to attend to some work in the next 10 minutes. If Arya says anything to hurt you, let me know, and I'll ensure she doesn't get a job in this company. Don't worry about her. She won't get the job. I'll make sure of it, he assured her, placing a kiss on her lips before walking away. Isabella's sweet smile suddenly turned into a frown as soon as he left. She knew Ryan wouldn't let Arya get the job, and she was sure of it. With a triumphant smile, she walked gracefully towards Richard's office. However, her smile faded when she saw Arya waiting by the door, causing her to scoff. Well, 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 if it isn't Little Miss Perfect, Isabella said with a mocking tone as she approached Arya, her expression filled with disdain. Well, 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 if it isn't the Queen of Drama herself, Arya replied with a raised eyebrow, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Isabella rolled her eyes at Arya's presence. What are you doing here, dear sister? Let me remind you that this isn't your playground. If you think you can waltz in here and cozy up to Ryan, you're sorely mistaken, Isabella retorted, crossing her arms in defiance. And pray tell, what connections do you possess to even consider landing a job here? She added, eyeing Arya's elegant attire with disdain. Her frown deepened as she noticed the chic handbag Arya carried. What? Where did she get that from? Isabella wondered silently. Arya gracefully took a seat on the nearby couch and crossed her legs, maintaining her composure. Arya calmly met Isabella's gaze, unfazed by her sister's words. Oh, dear sister, you always have such a vivid imagination. I'm here for work, not to play your silly games, Arya replied, her tone dripping with calmness. Isabella sneered, her tone dripping with contempt. You know, Arya, not everyone is as lucky as you to have a wealthy husband to keep them satisfied, she taunted, her words laced with bitterness. Maybe you're here because your marriage isn't as fulfilling as it seems. Desperate times call for desperate measures, don't they? She added with a smirk. As Arya remained silent, they noticed Richard approaching with a tall, imposing figure at his side, clearly his bodyguard. As Richard approached, Isabella maintained her usual innocent facade, though inwardly seething with jealousy and suspicion. She had expected Richard to acknowledge her presence and perhaps engage in conversation, leveraging her father's connections in his favor. However, to her surprise and dismay, Richard walked straight past her and headed directly towards Arya, his demeanor oozing with respect and deference. Isabella's eyes widened in disbelief as she watched Richard greet Arya with a warm smile and a firm handshake. His words were courteous, and his tone was respectful, completely at odds with how Isabella had anticipated him to behave towards her stepsister. What's going on here? Isabella muttered under her breath, her mind racing with confusion and suspicion. She couldn't understand why Richard was treating Arya with such deference, especially considering her own aspirations for his favor. You must be Arya Harrington, right? It's nice to meet you, Richard told Arya with a warm smile. His approach took Arya by surprise, as she hadn't expected it. Yes, sir. It's nice to meet you too. I'm here for the job interview, Arya replied. Yes, I know. Come into my office so we can talk some more, Richard told her. Arya couldn't help but feel surprised by how he was treating her. Was this what Alexander meant? That he had his way? As Isabella observed their interaction, a sense of unease crept over Isabella. Could it be that Arya held more influence and power in this company than she had initially assumed? And if so, what did that mean for her own plans and ambitions within LH Star? A few moments later, Arya emerged from Richard's office with a radiant smile gracing her features. The smile was not just one of relief or satisfaction from a successful interview, but also one of subtle triumph and quiet confidence. She had entered the interview uncertain of what to expect, but now she walked out with a sense of assurance and accomplishment. As she made her way towards Isabella and Ryan, Arya's smile grew wider, reflecting the inner joy and pride she felt in herself. It wasn't just about securing a job, it was about proving her capabilities and worth, both to herself and to those around her. With each step, Arya's smile seemed to brighten, embodying the newfound sense of purpose and determination she had discovered within herself during the interview. It was a smile that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. As Arya approached Isabella and Ryan, her radiant smile caught Isabella's eye. The expression on Isabella's face transformed from smug confidence to a mixture of surprise, disbelief, and perhaps a hint of jealousy. She couldn't comprehend how Arya, whom she had dismissed as unworthy and incompetent, could possibly emerge from the general manager's office with such a triumphant smile. Isabella's features contorted into a forced smile, masking the turmoil and resentment brewing within her. What was that look on her face? Does it mean she got the job? Isabella asked herself. I thought you said she wouldn't get the job. You have a lot of explaining to do, Isabella said through gritted teeth to Ryan before striding into Richard's office for her own meeting. Her father had assured her that she didn't need to undergo an interview to secure the position. Yet, the fact that Arya had somehow landed the job left her bewildered and seething with anger. After her discussion with Richard, Isabella noticed the stark contrast in the way he interacted with Arya compared to her. The gentle and polite demeanor he reserved for Arya raised suspicions in Isabella's mind about their relationship. Leaving the company in a fit of anger, Isabella refused Ryan's offer to drive her back home. Upon arriving home, Isabella rushed to the bar section and poured herself a glass of whiskey. Placing her hand on the counter, she bent her head over and let out a frustrated yell. Isabella, what's wrong? Grace hurried over upon hearing the commotion. What happened? Did you get the job? She asked with concern. What happened to me was Arya. That woman would never cease to vex me. You won't believe what she did to me today, Mother. Isabella frowned, gulping down the contents of the bottle. Arya. Grace's confusion was evident in her voice. Isabella poured herself another drink before starting to recount the day's events to her mother, Grace. Mom, you won't believe what happened today. Arya arrived in a fancy SUV, dressed to the nines in sophistication and elegance. She looked like she owned the place, Isabella began, her frustration evident in her voice. Grace's eyes widened in disbelief as Isabella continued. And then there's Richard. He treated her with such gentleness and affection, it was sickening. He even asked her to go into his office. Can you imagine? Grace shook her head in astonishment. I can't believe it. That doesn't sound like the Arya we know. How did she end up in expensive cars and clothes? She mused aloud. Isabella shrugged, equally perplexed. I have no idea, Mom. It's like she's a different person now, and I don't like it one bit. Grace's expression softened as she listened to Isabella's recount of the events. Placing a comforting hand on her daughter's shoulder, Grace would speak gently. I understand how upsetting this must be for you, dear. But remember, appearances can be deceiving. Arya's sudden elegance and Richard's behavior might not be what they seem. There could be explanations that we're not aware of. She paused, offering a reassuring smile, then suddenly furrowed her brows. Did you say you saw Richard walk up to her and held her hands? She asked, then gasped. Isabella regarded her mother with uncertainty before nodding in response to her questions. Grace's expression turned contemplative as she snorted in disbelief. Did he also talk to her with politeness and gentleness? She inquired, her voice tinged with skepticism. Perplexed, Isabella furrowed her brows. Mother, why are you asking all of these questions? She questioned, her confusion evident. With a disdainful chuckle, Grace shook her head in disgust. That wench, She really has no shame. Having an affair with a man that's old enough to be her father, she spat out. Isabella's eyes widened in shock at her mother's accusation. Are you trying to say that Arya is involved with Richard James? She gasped, a hand flying to cover her mouth. Grace nodded firmly, her lips curled in disgust. Yes. Where else will she get all those expensive clothes and car? Why would she get the job just after the jump interview? And why would Richard talk to her in that way if they're not lovers? She retorted, her tone dripping with disdain for Arya. Isabella felt a mix of horror and intrigue at her mother's words. Could Arya really be having an affair with an older man? Despite her doubts, she couldn't shake the satisfaction of entertaining such a scandalous idea about Arya. But I don't think so, Mother. Arya isn't someone like that. We know that, Isabella protested weakly, unsure of her own conviction. Determined, Grace fixed Isabella with a steely gaze. Then let's make her be. She doesn't have to do what we want her to, but we just have to find some proof that will make it seem like she is actually involved with a married old man, she declared, her voice laced with determination. Isabella nodded thoughtfully, a sly smirk curling her lips. You might be onto something there, Mother. Imagine the scandal if it were true. Richard's wife would be in for quite a shock, she mused, a mischievous chuckle escaping her lips. That's my girl. Always thinking ahead, Grace praised, a gleam of pride in her eyes. Remember, Isabella, I'll always have your back. No one will ever take what's rightfully yours, not even Arya, she reassured firmly. I know, Mother, Isabella replied, a sense of confidence filling her as she embraced her mother. In that moment, surrounded by her mother's support, Isabella felt a surge of determination wash over her. With Grace by her side, she was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. Her mother would always be right to her. As Arya burst through the door, her face aglow with excitement and joy from the successful job interview, she couldn't contain her exhilaration. Without a second thought, she rushed towards Alexander, her arms wrapping tightly around his neck as she jumped into his arms, her legs wiggling from behind. Alexander, taken aback by her sudden enthusiasm, couldn't help but smile warmly as he instinctively held her waist, feeling her presence against him like a comforting embrace. In that moment, everything felt right, and he found himself reveling in the sensation of having her so close. I got the job, Arya exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement, her eyes shining with triumph. Wow, I knew you could do it. Congratulations, Arya, Alexander replied, his smile mirroring her joy. You wouldn't believe the look on Ryan and Isabella's face when they saw me coming out of that car and in that dress, Arya recounted triumphantly. I've never felt so happy in a long time. The feeling of knowing the people who once looked down on me, used me, and insulted me could be so stunned and angered by my transformation. It's exhilarating. Alexander couldn't help but admire her resilience and strength, feeling a surge of admiration for her. Oh, I wish I could have seen their faces, he exclaimed, caught up in her excitement. Although he had watched how everything happened, from when she arrived at the company, to the look on Ryan and Isabella's face. Their eyes met for a moment, sparking a silent connection that spoke volumes without a single word exchanged. But as Arya's excitement began to wane, she became acutely aware of their intimate position. With a nervous gulp, she pulled away, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I'm sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to. I got carried away, she stammered, her voice tinged with regret. However, Alexander's response surprised her. With a reassuring smile, he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face and leaned in closer, his voice low and husky. No need to apologize, Arya, he murmured, his eyes smoldering with intensity. In fact, I rather liked being caught off guard by you. It's a pleasant surprise, he added, his tone sending shivers down her spine. Arya's breath caught in her throat as she met his gaze, feeling a rush of heat flood her cheeks. In that moment, the air crackled with unspoken tension, leaving both of them longing for more. And as Alexander's lips curved into a knowing smirk, Arya couldn't help but feel a tantalizing thrill run through her. He leaned in even closer, his warm breath grazing her skin as he whispered, "Your eyes sparkle with so much joy, Arya. They're mesmerizing." Her heart raced at his words, her breath hitching as his face drew nearer to hers, their lips inches apart. Arya's breath quickened as she felt the heat rising between them, the urge to kiss him growing stronger with each passing second. Closing her eyes, she leaned in, her lips hovering just a breath away from his, when suddenly, a ringing tone shattered the moment, startling them both. Alexander, caught in the moment, inched closer to Arya, his lips almost touching hers, when the ringing tone startles them both. With a reluctant sigh, he pulls back slightly, a hint of frustration evident in his eyes. As he reaches into his pocket to retrieve his phone, he sees it's his mother calling. "Sorry, Arya." "I need to take this," he said apologetically, flashing her an apologetic smile before answering the call. Arya nodded understandingly, a mixture of disappointment and relief flooding her. She took a step back, allowing him some space as he answered the call. As Alexander engaged in conversation with his mother, Arya took a moment to compose herself, her heart still racing from the almost kiss. After a brief conversation, Alexander ended the call with a frown on his face and pocketed his phone. Turning back to Arya, he offered her a sheepish smile. "Sorry about that." "It was my mother," he explained, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "It's okay," Arya replied, managing a small smile despite her lingering disappointment. "Duty calls, right?" "Right." Alexander nodded, his expression earnest. "But I promise, we'll continue this conversation later." Arya's heart fluttered at his words, a blush creeping onto her cheeks. "I'd like that," she murmured softly. With a final smile, Alexander reached out and gently squeezed her hand before turning to leave. As he walked away, Arya couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation building within her, wondering what might have happened between them if the kiss had taken place. What if his mother hadn't called? Would they have really kissed? After the almost kiss with Alexander, Arya retreated to her room, her heart still racing from the intense moment they shared. She kicked off her high heels and sank onto her bed, a bright smile gracing her lips as she replayed the encounter in her mind. Despite the interruption, she can't help but feel a rush of excitement at the thought of what might have been. As she sat there, basking in the aftermath of their near kiss, Arya's thoughts drifted to Isabella's earlier remarks about the expensive car and clothes. With a laugh, she shook her head at the absurdity of it all. "Oh, Isabella," she muttered to herself, always so quick to jump to conclusions. "It's fun seeing you confused, shocked, and bittered." The following day, Arya emerged from the bathroom, feeling refreshed after her shower. Her clothes for the day were meticulously laid out on the bed, exuding an aura of sophistication and elegance. Among them was an emerald green dress that accentuated her figure. After slipping into the fitted knee-length dress in a deep shade of emerald green, accentuating her curves with its tailored silhouette. The dress features delicate lace detailing along the neckline and sleeves, adding a touch of femininity to the ensemble, paired with nude heels that elongate her legs and a statement necklace adorned with shimmering crystals. Arya exuded poise and charm. She had applied her makeup with precision. As Arya stepped out of her bedroom, the Louis Vuitton bag in her hand added a final touch of luxury to her look. Arya's eyes widened in admiration as Alexander emerged from his own room. His attire exudes effortless charm, the black shirt and white tailored pants showcasing his impeccable sense of style. With a few buttons left open, revealing a glimpse of his sculpted chest, Alexander cuts a striking figure that left Arya momentarily breathless. Caught off guard by his captivating appearance, Arya's gaze lingers on his chest, where the shirt was left slightly open for a moment longer than intended, her lips instinctively grazing her lower lip as she admired him from head to toe. However, a question nagged at her mind. Why was he dressed that way? Is he going out? Arya wondered aloud, her gaze fixated on Alexander's attire. In response, Alexander flashed her a mischievous smile, the kind that sent butterflies fluttering in Arya's stomach. It was the quintessential bad boy grin that had a way of captivating even the most good of women. Arya eyed Alexander's outfit with curiosity. "Are you heading out?" she asked, unable to resist the smile playing on his lips. His bad boy charm always had a way of captivating her. Alexander chuckled, his eyes sparkling mischievously. "Maybe," he teased, taking a step closer to Arya. "But don't worry, I'll be back before you know it." He flashed her a wink before heading out of the room, leaving Arya with a playful smile on her lips. As they entered the living room, Arya followed closely behind Alexander. "I wasn't bothered about when you'd come home," she remarked, a stubborn frown creasing her brow as she tried to downplay her concern. Alexander turned to look at her, his eyes softening. "I know, but I just felt like keeping you in the loop," he reassured her. "I'll wish you luck today. I'll be heading out first." A few minutes later, Arya's car pulled up to the entrance of LH Star. The driver hurried to open the door for her, and she stepped out gracefully, thanking him with a polite smile. "Thank you," she said, before making her way into LH Star. It was evident that news of her arrival had spread, judging by the curious glances she received from those around her. As Arya proceeded into the company, dressed impeccably, Ryan, who was coming out of the elevator, couldn't help but be captivated by her stunning appearance. He found himself momentarily lost in her beauty, reminiscing about the time they had spent together. She was different then, but better now. However, Isabella's words echoed in his mind, causing him to frown. Despite being mesmerized by Arya's allure, he couldn't shake the realization of how much he desired Isabella and believed every of her words. It was a conflicting feeling for Ryan, torn between his past with Arya and his present feelings for Isabella. Despite the allure of his former flame, he couldn't deny the strong connection he had with Isabella and the desire to be with her. Arya walked past him, but he approached her with a sneer, grabbing her by the arm as he brought his face closer to hers. "We need to talk. You have some serious explaining to do." "Follow me while I'm still being nice," Ryan told Arya. Arya met Ryan's sneer with a cold, defiant gaze, refusing to show any signs of fear or submission. With a subtle flick of her wrist, she freed her arm from his grasp, maintaining a composed demeanor despite his aggressive approach. "I don't owe you any explanations, Ryan," Arya retorted, her voice laced with a hint of disdain. "But since you seem so eager to confront me, let's get this over with. Lead the way." Her tone conveyed a sense of unwavering confidence, making it clear that she was not intimidated by his attempts to assert authority. Arya's eyes narrowed as Ryan roughly pulled her into the empty storage room, his forceful actions sending a wave of indignation coursing through her veins. She braced herself against the wall, a defiant frown etching itself onto her features as she met his gaze head-on. "What the hell do you think you're doing here, Arya?" Ryan asked. "What's it to you, Ryan?" "Last time I checked, my whereabouts weren't any of your concern," Arya shot back, her tone sharp and unyielding. "Tell me what you're doing here, and don't you think of speaking any lies because that's what you're known for," Ryan spat out, his words dripping with contempt. Arya's lips curled into a scornful smirk, her gaze unwavering as she squared her shoulders, refusing to cower under his intimidation. "Oh, spare me the lecture, Ryan. I've heard enough of your lies to last a lifetime," she retorted, her voice laced with disdain. "And as for your precious Isabella, she's welcome to you. You're a perfect match. A spineless coward and a manipulative bitch." Ryan scoffed, his expression twisting into a sneer as he attempted to assert his dominance. "It seems Isabella is always right. You're here for me. You're nothing but a desperate bitch. Do you really think a few attractive and expensive dresses will get me? Or do you think this transformation will? You must be joking. My heart is only for Isabella. If you know what's best for you, then go to Richard and tell him you don't want the job again," he taunted. Arya's laughter rang out, sharp and cutting, as she shook her head in disbelief. "You truly are delusional, Ryan. Did you forget who you're dealing with? I'm not some naive little girl you can manipulate anymore. I'm not your ticket to Isabella's bed or her father's wealth," she shot back, her tone dripping with scorn. Ryan's anger boiled over, his fists clenched at his sides as he moved to strike her. But Arya held her ground, her gaze unflinching as she leveled him with a steely glare. "Touch me, Ryan, and you'll regret it," she warned, her voice low and dangerous. "You may think you can control me, but you're sorely mistaken. I'm not your pawn to manipulate anymore." With a final defiant glare, Arya turned on her heel and strode out of the room, leaving Ryan seething with frustration in her wake. She may have been hurt by him in the past, but she refused to let him dictate her future. She was stronger now, and she wouldn't let anyone, not even Ryan, bring her down. Ryan's expression morphed from one of arrogant superiority to shock and anger as Arya unleashed her fierce rebuttal. His features contorted with disbelief, his eyes widening in astonishment at the unyielding defiance radiating from her. The venom in her words struck a nerve, igniting a raging inferno of frustration within him as he struggled to process the unexpected backlash from the woman he once thought he could control. As Arya's cutting words pierced through his facade of arrogance, Ryan's anger simmered beneath the surface, his fists clenching at his sides in a futile attempt to contain his rage. He couldn't believe the audacity of Arya's defiance, the sheer force of her resolve leaving him reeling with a mixture of disbelief and fury. Deep down, Ryan couldn't deny the truth of Arya's words. They cut through his illusions with brutal precision, laying bare the stark reality of his own shortcomings. At that moment, he realized that he had underestimated her. Yet despite his anger and disbelief, a small part of Ryan couldn't help but feel a twinge of admiration for Arya's newfound confidence and defiance. It was a side of her he had never seen before, a side that both unsettled and intrigued him in equal measure. As Arya turned and strode out of the room, leaving him seething with frustration and wounded pride, Ryan was left to grapple with the unsettling realization that the woman he once thought he could control had slipped through his fingers, transformed into a force to be reckoned with. A force he could no longer tame or manipulate. What was he going to do? He couldn't just accept defeat. He must let her know she was nothing to him. As Arya walked out of the room with a smirk on her face, she bumped into Mariah. "You must be the new administrative assistant?" "I was about to come and look for you," Mariah said with a stony expression. "Yes, I am." "How did you know?" Arya asked. "I know because you're the only new face I can see around here." "Did anyone direct you to your department?" Mariah inquired. "No, no one has." "Is someone supposed to direct me?" Arya responded, raising a brow. Mariah gave a small smile and nodded her head. "Aren't you going to ask me who I am?" Mariah raised a brow and inquired. "There is no need for me to ask. I already know who you are by the name tag on your suit," Arya said with a smile. Mariah's smile widened. "Let me introduce myself properly to you. I am Mariah Johnson, the administrative manager of LH Star. It's nice to meet you, Arya," Mariah introduced. "It's nice to meet you too, Mariah," Arya replied. As they walked towards their department, Mariah started the conversation. "All right, Arya, let me give you a rundown of what to expect in your role as administrative assistant. Your primary responsibilities will include managing schedules, coordinating meetings, handling correspondence, and assisting with various administrative tasks as needed. You'll be working closely with me and other department heads to ensure smooth operations within the company. Are you ready to dive in and get started?" Mariah asked. Arya nodded in response to Mariah's question, her expression determined. "Absolutely, Mariah. I'm eager to jump into my new role and contribute to the success of LH Star," she replied confidently. "I'm organized, detail-oriented, and ready to take on any challenge that comes my way. I'm looking forward to learning from you and the rest of the team." Arya's tone conveyed her enthusiasm and determination to excel in her new position. Mariah smiled a little at Arya's enthusiasm. "Arya, welcome to your new role as administrative assistant. This is a crucial and busy week for LH Star as we prepare for our upcoming jewelry exhibition," Maria explained, her tone firm yet encouraging. "We're tasked with designing new jewelry pieces to showcase to international companies from France, Italy, and beyond. It's imperative that we excel in this exhibition as we're known for setting the standard in the industry. She continued, the jewelry exhibition brochure is scheduled for Thursday, followed by the main exhibition next week Tuesday. We have just 1 week to finalize our designs and preparations, so expect things to get quite hectic around here. However, I have full confidence in your abilities to contribute effectively to our team. We are all one in LH Star. The jewelry designer also has a big role to play in this, as he is the one to design. Maria's words elicited a smile from Arya, who harbored a passion for jewelry design. The prospect of being involved in the exhibition's design process excited her, despite the tight deadline. Arya nodded her head in understanding, but deep down she felt sad to know her dream job wasn't hers, a jewelry designer. As they walked to the department, Mariah introduced Arya to 3 more members of their team. First, we have Emma. Mariah gestured towards the red-haired woman, who smiled warmly at Arya. She's our marketing coordinator and a vital part of our team. It's nice to meet you, Arya, Emma greeted with a friendly tone. Nice to meet you too, Emma, Arya replied with a smile. Next, Mariah pointed to the black-haired woman. This is Maya, our graphic designer. She's incredibly talented and creative. Maya nodded in acknowledgement. Welcome aboard, Arya. Thank you, Maya, Arya responded graciously. Finally, Mariah motioned towards the male member of the team. And this is Oliver, our IT specialist. He's the go-to person for all things tech-related around here. Oliver extended his hand with a friendly grin. Pleasure to meet you, Arya. If you ever need assistance with anything tech-related, feel free to ask. Thank you, Oliver. It's a pleasure to meet you all, Arya said, shaking his hand. She felt welcomed by her new colleagues and excited to start working with them. Mariah continued, All right, Arya, now that you've met the team, let's get you settled into your workspace. Your desk is right over here. As time passed, Arya found herself fully immersed in her work within her department. She engaged in discussions with her team members, seeking advice and collaborating on various projects. Despite her initial reservations, she was pleasantly surprised by how effortlessly her colleagues responded to her inquiries and how smoothly they worked together. Interacting with her new coworkers, Arya couldn't help but contrast them with the toxic individuals from her past, including Ryan, his family, Isabella, and her previous friends. Unlike them, her colleagues were kind, supportive, and genuine, making her feel welcomed and valued. As the hours passed, Arya became so engrossed in her tasks and conversations that she almost forgot about the presence of Ryan and Isabella in the company. She realized that they were in different departments and wouldn't cross paths with her often, relieving some of the tension she had felt earlier. Although Arya felt tempted to inquire about Ryan and Isabella with her team members, she refrained from doing so to avoid raising suspicion. Instead, she focused on building rapport with her colleagues and integrating herself into her new work environment. Deep down, she knew that she could trust these people and that they were nothing like the toxic influences from her past. Oliver stood up from his desk, stretching slightly. All right, folks, it's break time. Anyone up for a coffee or a snack? Ha, finally. I'm so famished. Emma stretched her arms, her tone dry. Arya looked up, a hint of confusion in her expression. She wasn't sure what the company's break culture was like. Maya chimed in, noticing Arya's uncertainty. We usually head down to the cafeteria for a quick break. The food is good, and it's on the house. That sounds great, Arya replied with a smile, grateful for the guidance. Emma interjected with a playful tone. Just one piece of advice, Arya. You might want to steer clear off the 2 witches. Arya furrowed her brows, curious about the warning. What do you mean by the 2 witches? Oliver sighed, shaking his head. Don't mind Emma's dramatics. Catherine is one of our middle-level managers, and Sophia is her assistant. They're good at what they do, but they can be a bit difficult to deal with at times. Emma smirked. Let's just say they're not known for their warmth and friendliness. No, they're real bitches, Maya scoffed. They're known as the top pretty ladies at work, but seeing you, Arya, they're nowhere compared to you, Maya added. Arya nodded, taking note of their advice. She appreciated the heads up and made a mental note to tread carefully around Catherine and Sophia. If they were as Emma and Maya had said, she would make sure she doesn't step on their toes and they shouldn't step on hers. She was a different person now. That's enough of the talk, guys. Let's head to the cafeteria, Mariah said. Yes, Mariah, Oliver replied. As they made their way to the cafeteria for their break, Arya couldn't help but feel grateful for her supportive team. She knew she was in good hands, and she was eager to continue learning and growing in her new role. In the company's classic cafeteria, Arya, Maya, Emma, Oliver, and Mariah found themselves seated at a polished wooden table, nestled in a corner away from the hustle and bustle of the serving area. The ambiance was serene, with soft lighting casting a warm glow over the space. The cafeteria itself was spacious and well lit, with large windows offering glimpses of the bustling cityscape outside. Colorful posters adorned the walls, showcasing motivational quotes and company achievements. The seating area featured a mix of tables and chairs, arranged to accommodate both intimate conversations and larger gatherings. Arya and Maya sat opposite each other, their plates adorned with elegant dishes befitting the refined setting. Arya's plate showcased a colorful arrangement of gourmet salads, featuring crisp greens, heirloom tomatoes, and delicate slices of cucumber, drizzled with a light vinaigrette. Alongside it lay a serving of artisanal bread, crusty and warm from the oven. Maya's meal consisted of a gourmet sandwich, piled high with layers of thinly sliced meats, cheese, and fresh vegetables, all nestled between slices of artisanal bread. A side of mixed greens adorned her plate, dressed with a zesty lemon vinaigrette. Emma sat next to Arya, her plate adorned with a vibrant selection of Mediterranean-inspired dishes, including stuffed grape leaves, hummus, and tabbouleh salad. She savored each bite, her expression reflecting the satisfaction of enjoying a delicious meal. Oliver occupied a seat next to Emma, his plate featuring a hearty serving of pasta primavera, tossed with seasonal vegetables and a savory garlic-infused olive oil. He dug into his meal with gusto, savoring the flavors with every bite. Mariah sat opposite Emma, her plate showcasing a classic Caesar salad, topped with grilled chicken and a generous sprinkling of Parmesan cheese. She savored each forkful, her expression serene as she engaged in conversation with her colleagues. Throughout the cafeteria, small groups of colleagues engaged in quiet conversation, their laughter and camaraderie adding to the tranquil atmosphere. The seating arrangement allowed for privacy and comfort, with plush chairs and cushioned benches providing ample space for relaxation. Overall, the company's cafeteria provided a refined setting for Arya and her colleagues to enjoy their meal and engage in meaningful conversation. Amidst the classic ambiance and elegant surroundings, they found a moment of respite from the demands of the workday. "I'm really curious about you, Arya," Maya said, taking a sip from her glass of juice. Arya looked up at her colleague, intrigued by her question. "What are you curious about?" she asked. Maya's expression softened as she leaned in slightly. "What was your life like considering the fact that you're the unfavored daughter of your family? It must be hard, right?" "I know how it feels like having a bad stepmother," she said empathetically. Arya paused, her gaze dropping to her plate for a moment before meeting Maya's eyes. "It wasn't easy," she admitted, her voice tinged with sadness. "Growing up in a household where you constantly feel overlooked and unloved. It takes its toll. But I've learned to be resilient and find strength in adversity, and thankfully I had some supportive people in my life who helped me get through it." Maya nodded understandingly, her eyes reflecting compassion. "I'm glad you had support. No one should have to go through that alone," she said softly. Arya offered her a grateful smile before taking another bite of her food, feeling a sense of camaraderie with her new colleague. "I've always thought that since people like you come from rich families, you don't know what hardship means," Oliver said with a mouthful. Arya just smiled without saying anything and kept eating her food. As they enjoyed their meal in the cafeteria, Oliver couldn't help but notice the glimmer of a wedding ring on Arya's finger. "So, Arya, how's married life treating you?" he asked, his tone casual yet curious. Arya's cheeks tinted with a faint blush as she glanced down at her ring. "It's been wonderful, actually," she replied with a soft smile. "Alexander and I are really happy together." Her mind slightly drifted to the day when Alexander decided to be her shield, to the day he had promised not to let anyone hurt and help her get her revenge. Ever since that day, she has been happy. Maya's eyes lit up with excitement. "Oh, I've seen pictures of him on social media. I just couldn't believe it. He's so handsome," she exclaimed, her admiration evident in her voice. "You're so lucky to have such a gorgeous husband, Arya." Arya chuckled, feeling a surge of warmth at Maya's compliment. "Thank you, Maya. I feel incredibly fortunate," she replied graciously. She was right. Alexander was a good-looking man. Arya suddenly remembered the first time she had traced her fingers along the contours of his chiseled chest, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath her touch, the way his heart had beat steadily beneath her palm. Oh, Alexander. Just the thought of him sent a flutter of warmth through her, igniting a gentle fire within her heart. She recalled the way his eyes would light up with tenderness whenever he looked at her, and his bad boy smile. Emma, sitting beside Maya, couldn't resist teasing her friend. "Maya, careful there. You're practically drooling over another woman's husband," she teased, her eyes twinkling mischievously. Maya's cheeks flushed slightly as she laughed sheepishly. "Oops, got carried away." "Sorry, Arya," she apologized, though her admiration for Alexander's looks was still evident. Arya waved off her apology with a grin. "No worries, Maya. I can't blame you for appreciating a good-looking man," she said playfully, enjoying the light-hearted banter among her colleagues. As they continued their conversation, Arya couldn't help but feel grateful for the friendly atmosphere and camaraderie among her new co-workers. Mariah watched with a sense of satisfaction as her team bonded over their meal. She admired how Arya seamlessly integrated into the group, exchanging smiles and sharing stories with her colleagues. Mariah cleared her throat, capturing the attention of the group. "I must say, Arya, it's been a pleasure having you join our team. You've already made quite an impression," she said warmly, her gaze lingering on Arya. Arya met Mariah's gaze with a grateful smile. "Thank you, Mariah. I'm really excited to be here and to work with such a talented team," she replied earnestly. Mariah nodded in approval, her expression reflecting genuine camaraderie. "I have a feeling you're going to fit in just fine. We're all here to support each other and ensure the success of our department," she said, her tone reassuring. Arya felt a surge of gratitude towards Mariah and her colleagues. Oliver suddenly interjected, his tone tinged with warning. "Incoming. They're here." Arya raised an eyebrow, understanding immediately who he meant. "You mean the witches?" Oliver nodded grimly. "That's right." Curious, Arya turned to her colleagues. "Why do you call them witches?" Emma sighed, her expression clouded with distaste. "They've earned that title. One of the reasons is how they treated Mariah. They once bullied her, calling her ugly and making her feel terrible. Mariah never reported it because she didn't want to cause trouble. They're known for ruining the work life of those they don't like, especially when they realize you're way too smart or prettier than them," Emma explained. Arya's gaze narrowed. "Sounds like Isabella's character," Arya thought. Just then, Catherine and Sophia approached their table, their presence casting a shadow over the lively conversation. Arya tensed slightly, sensing the tension in the air, ready for any rubbish from them. Well, what do we have here?" Catherine's voice dripped with condescension as she eyed Arya with disdain. "The new girl making waves on her first day. I heard she arrived here with an expensive car." "What a show-off," Sophia chimed in, her tone equally dismissive. "Quite impressive getting a job here after just one interview. What's your secret, dear?" Arya's jaw tightened, irritation bubbling beneath the surface at their thinly veiled insults. "I suppose I just made a good impression," she replied evenly, refusing to let them rattle her. Catherine smirked, exchanging a knowing glance with Sophia. "Impression indeed. We'll be keeping an eye on you, Miss Johnson, or should I say Mrs. Harrington?" Catherine said, then chuckled. You wouldn't want to disappoint us now, would you? With that ominous warning, Catherine and Sophia sauntered away, leaving Arya feeling unsettled and wary of the challenges that lay ahead with her new adversaries. Emma's eyes narrowed with a hint of defiance as she watched Catherine and Sophia walk away. Just as I said, they're always up to no good, she remarked, her tone tinged with frustration. Don't let them get to you, Arya. They thrive on drama and intimidation, but they're all bark and no bite. Maya placed a reassuring hand on Arya's arm, offering her a sympathetic smile. Emma's right, Arya. Catherine and Sophia love to stir up trouble, but they're not worth your time or energy, she said gently. Focus on your work and your supportive team. We've got your back. Arya nodded gratefully, feeling a sense of solidarity with her colleagues. She knew that with their support, she could navigate the challenges posed by Catherine and Sophia and thrive in her new role at LH Star. A few hours later, in Ryan's office, Ryan was engrossed in his phone. However, as soon as the door to his office opened, he swiftly pocketed his phone and straightened up in his chair, as though he had been engaged in something he preferred to keep private. Isabella, noticing his actions, ignored them and approached him with a seductive sway, and settled onto his lap, initiating a fiery kiss. Their embrace was filled with raw passion, devoid of any hint of tenderness. Isabella and Ryan's kiss was primal and intense. As their lips met, Ryan couldn't help but grab Isabella's supple buttocks, pulling her closer to him. With a hunger born of desire, he nibbled on her lower lip, eliciting a soft moan from her. Meanwhile, Isabella's hands trailed down Ryan's chest, deftly unbuttoning his shirt as she rocked her hips against his lap, intensifying the passion between them with each movement. Their embrace was charged with raw desire, their bodies entwined in a dance of lust and longing. As their kiss deepened, Ryan's lips trailed from Isabella's to her neck, where he planted a series of sensual kisses, his warm breath sending shivers down her spine. But in the midst of their passion, thoughts of Arya crept into Ryan's mind, her image vivid and tantalizing. Despite his attempts to focus solely on Isabella, memories of Arya's tantalizing transformation and allure lingered, stirring conflicting emotions within him. Ryan's hands roamed down Isabella's body, his fingertips tracing the curves of her figure as he continued to kiss her fervently. However, as his lips neared her chest, he hesitated, his mind momentarily consumed by thoughts of Arya's captivating presence. As Ryan continued to kiss Isabella, his mind involuntarily drifted to thoughts of Arya, her image lingering in his subconscious despite his attempts to focus on the moment with Isabella. Suddenly, a frown creased Ryan's brow, interrupting their passionate exchange. Sensing his change in demeanor, Isabella furrowed her brows in confusion, questioning why he had stopped. Breaking the intense atmosphere, Ryan reluctantly pulled away from Isabella. "What's wrong, Ryan?" Isabella asked, her voice tinged with annoyance. Ryan hesitated, his gaze clouded with uncertainty. "I'm sorry, Isabella. I've just been swamped with work lately," he began, his tone apologetic yet distant. "I have a lot on my plate this week, and I'll likely be tied up at the office late tonight. I'm afraid I won't have much time for other activities." Isabella's expression darkened, a flicker of malice dancing in her eyes as she processed Ryan's words. She understood all too well the implications of his sudden busyness. It meant less time for her, less attention, less control over him. Isabella feigned contrition, her voice laced with false remorse as she responded to Ryan's explanation. "I'm sorry, my love. I'm so stupid to have not known that you would be so busy. I shouldn't have come to you like that, especially at work." "I'll take my leave now," she said, her words dripping with insincerity as she prepared to make her exit. But Ryan, unable to bear the thought of her leaving, quickly interjected, his face softening with concern. "No, don't leave, my love. Stay." "You aren't disturbing me," he implored, his voice tinged with desperation. Relenting, Isabella acquiesced, albeit with a calculated coolness. "Okay, if you say so," she replied, masking her true intentions behind a facade of compliance. Seizing the opportunity to gather information, Isabella carefully steered the conversation towards the jewelry designer, her tone casual yet probing. "Who is the jewelry designer?" "How come I haven't seen him?" she inquired innocently, her eyes flickering with hidden curiosity. Ryan, who was unaware of Isabella's ulterior motives, readily offered the information, eager to assuage her concerns. "There is no way you would have seen him because you just resumed. I'm sure he must be busy with the sample, that's why he hasn't shown his face," he explained, oblivious to the significance of his words. Isabella nodded in feigned understanding, her expression carefully neutral as she filed away the details for later use. "I see," she replied, her mind already churning with wicked schemes as she plotted her next move, knowing that every piece of information gleaned from Ryan would serve her malevolent purposes. Isabella maintained her composed demeanor, concealing her true motives behind a mask of indifference. "So, what's the jewelry designer's name?" she inquired casually, her tone betraying no hint of suspicion. Ryan glanced up from his desk, momentarily caught off guard by her sudden interest. "His name is Michael Thompson. He's been with the company for a few years now, handling most of our high-end designs," he revealed, unaware of Isabella's ulterior motives. "And what kind of jewelry is he currently working on?" Isabella pressed further, her tone laced with a feigned curiosity. "He's working on a new line of diamond necklaces and bracelets for our upcoming exhibition," Ryan disclosed, unaware of Isabella's hidden agenda. Isabella nodded, absorbing the information with apparent interest. "Interesting. And when is the deadline for the exhibition?" she inquired, subtly steering the conversation towards her intended target. "The exhibition is in a week, so we're on a tight schedule to get everything finalized," Ryan replied, unaware of the wheels turning in Isabella's mind. "So you mean the real designs for the jewelry would be ready for tomorrow?" Isabella murmured aloud. "Yes, it will be. Michael will have the designs in his office, I think," Ryan replied. A sly smile slowly found its way to Isabella's lips. She then had a thought on how she would tell her father about the design. If LH Star were to get exposure and recognition for their innovative design at the exhibition, it would elevate their status in the industry, attract more clients, and potentially lead to lucrative business opportunities. This increased visibility could propel LH Star to new heights of success and profitability, which is precisely what Isabella aims to prevent by sabotaging their reputation. Was this what her father meant by getting discriminating evidence that would lead the company to its downfall? This was her chance to get the job done as soon as possible. With a devious glint in her eye, Isabella turned her attention back to Ryan, her expression carefully neutral as she prepared to make her move. "Well, I suppose I should let you get back to work," she said smoothly, her tone casual yet calculated. "I'll leave you to your busy schedule. Don't let me keep you from your important tasks," she added, a subtle emphasis on the word important, hinting at her underlying agenda. As Ryan watched her leave, a pang of unease settled in the pit of his stomach, a faint sense of foreboding lingering in the air. He couldn't shake the feeling that Isabella had an ulterior motive for her sudden interest in the jewelry designer, but he pushed the thought aside, dismissing it as mere paranoia. Isabella wouldn't do anything wrong. She might just be asking out of goodwill. Once Isabella had exited his office, she maintained a composed facade, her expression betraying no hint of the scheming thoughts swirling in her mind. With a final glance over her shoulder, she flashed Ryan a coy smile before disappearing down the corridor, her steps echoing faintly in the empty hallway. She maintained a smile as she made her way towards her department. Working in customer care didn't seem so bad after all. Initially, she had been irked by Arya's appointment as the administrative assistant, which technically made Arya her senior. However, her resentment had dissipated. Just as she thought of Arya, Isabella spotted her emerging from the elevator accompanied by Maya and a few others. Arya appeared radiant, her smile infectious as she engaged in lively conversation with her colleagues. Observing Arya's joyful countenance, Isabella's heart brimmed with resentment and animosity. This must be her team members. Can't believe this wench has already made friends. Well, let's see how long this friendship will last when they get to know the disgusting truth about you, Isabella muttered to herself, her eyes fixed on them as they passed by. As Arya's gaze briefly met hers, Isabella could have sworn she detected a smirk on Arya's face. What did that smirk signify? Isabella was certain it held some significance. Who exactly was this new Arya? Shaking off her unease, Isabella scoffed dismissively and turned away, her thoughts consumed by hatred. Whatever game Arya was playing, Isabella was determined to emerge victorious, no matter the cost. Later that day, when Isabella got back home from work, she wasted no time in heading towards her father's office to tell him about her recent findings. "Dad, I've got some important information about LH Star," Isabella said, her voice brimming with urgency. "Go on, Isabella. What have you found?" David replied with a sly smile, sensing the opportunity unfolding. "Well, they're gearing up for an exhibition, and there's this jewelry designer, Michael Thompson, who seems to be at the heart of it," Isabella explained, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Interesting. Tell me more," David urged, leaning forward in his seat. "He's working on some high-end designs for the exhibition. I think this could be our chance to strike," Isabella continued, her tone resolute. "So, this exhibition could be our opportunity to strike," David mused, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "But we need to act swiftly. We can't afford any slip-ups." Isabella nodded in agreement, her mind already racing with schemes and strategies. "I understand, Father. I'll do whatever it takes to ensure LH Star's downfall," she vowed, her tone resolute. David regarded his daughter with a mixture of pride and satisfaction. "That's my girl," he praised, a hint of admiration in his voice. "Now about those designs. We need to get our hands on them before the samples are submitted. That's where the real power lies." Isabella nodded, her determination burning bright. "Don't worry, Father. I already have a plan in motion," she assured him, a steely glint in her eyes. David's expression softened with pride, his confidence in his daughter unwavering. "I knew I could count on you, Isabella," he commended, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Now, do you have any information about the CEO of LH Star?" "For now, I have a lead. There is a woman who knows the identity of the CEO. I'll try to gain her favor," Isabella explained. Then her face went expressionless. "I need to know who you're working with. Who really is after LH Star's downfall?" David went silent for a moment, unsure whether to reveal the truth. "I'll tell you when our plan is executed. Don't worry, my girl. Trust me. I'm doing this for us," he said. Her father was again proud and happy for her successful efforts. As Isabella emerged from her father's office, she noticed her mother standing behind the door. They exchanged a meaningful look, understanding passing between them without a word spoken. "Good job, Isabella," Grace praised her daughter with a proud smile. "The more you continue to make your father proud, the more favor you'll gain with him." Isabella's expression faltered. "I hate being kept in the dark, Mother. I need to know who my father is working for. Have you overheard anything about his recent conversations?" Grace paused, deep in thought. "Now that you mention it, I've heard him speaking on the phone with someone named Mr. Harrington," she revealed. Isabella's eyes widened with curiosity, pondering which Harrington it could be: Gabriel, Julian, Ethan, or perhaps Alexander. "Which one is it, Mother?" Isabella pressed, a hint of frustration creeping into her voice. "I'm not sure. He simply refers to the person as Mr. Harrington before excusing himself to his office." "Your father can be quite secretive," Grace explained. Isabella furrowed her brow, her mind racing with possibilities. Who could her father be working for? One of the Harrington brothers? Or perhaps the patriarch himself? Grace, sensing her daughter's turmoil, offered a comforting reassurance. "Don't dwell on it too much. Just focus on carrying out our plan. If all goes well, our family will be stronger than ever." At Alexander's penthouse, Alexander sat in his office, engrossed in the meticulous planning for the upcoming exhibition. As the clock struck 8 p.m., he glanced up, a furrow forming on his brow. Arya should have been back from work by now. It was her first day, after all. Concern gnawing at him, he reached for his phone, fingers tapping anxiously as he tried to reach her. However, his attempts were met with frustration as her phone went unanswered. Growing more apprehensive by the minute, Alexander dialed the number of Arya's driver, hoping for some reassurance. The driver answered promptly, his voice laced with professionalism. "Mr. Harrington, Miss Arya mentioned that she'll be working late tonight with her boss," he explained, his words sending a ripple of unease through Alexander. Alexander's brow furrowed deeper as he listened to the driver's explanation, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. The news that Arya would be working late with her boss sent a wave of apprehension coursing through him, stirring a flurry of conflicting emotions within. His mind raced with a myriad of questions and concerns. Why was Arya working late on her first day? What could be keeping her so occupied? And most importantly, why hadn't she answered his calls? Was it because she was busy? As Arya entered their home, she sighed with relief, feeling the weight of the day's responsibilities slowly lift from her shoulders. She dropped her handbag onto a nearby chair and slipped off her shoes, savoring the familiarity and comfort of her surroundings. However, her moment of respite was short-lived, as Alexander's stern voice cut through the silence, his disapproving presence filling the room like a dark cloud. Startled, Arya looked up to find him standing in the doorway to the dining room, his expression etched with concern and frustration. "Why are you coming back home this late?" Alexander's voice carried a possessive edge, his tone demanding an explanation. Arya's heart skipped a beat at his accusatory tone, her stomach churning with unease. She swallowed nervously before mustering the courage to respond. "There were a lot of things to do at work because of the impending exhibition," she stammered. Alexander's frown deepened at her explanation, his features hardening with disapproval. "You have nothing to do with the exhibition. You just resumed your work." "I don't expect anyone to be stressing you out yet," he countered, his tone laced with possessiveness. "You don't know how worried I was when you didn't pick my calls." His tone calmed a little. Arya's throat tightened at his words, a pang of guilt gnawing at her conscience. She knew he was right. She had no direct involvement in the exhibition preparations, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of responsibility that weighed heavily upon her. I'm sorry, Alexander, I didn't mean to worry you," she apologized, her voice softening with remorse. Alexander's expression softened slightly at her apology, his anger giving way to concern. "I just want to make sure you're okay, Arya. I don't like the idea of you working late, especially when I can't reach you. Especially knowing the kind of people you're working with," he admitted, his tone gentler now. "If not that you wanted this, I won't even have allowed Ryan and Isabella anywhere near you." Alexander thought. Arya reached out to place a comforting hand on his arm, her touch seeking to reassure him. "I understand, Alexander. I'll try to be more mindful of my work hours in the future," she promised, her eyes meeting him with sincerity. "I won't let anyone hurt me." With a sigh, Alexander pulled her into a reassuring embrace, his arms enveloping her in a protective embrace. "Just promise me you'll prioritize your well-being, Arya. That's all I ask," he murmured against her hair, his voice filled with genuine concern. Arya widened her eyes for a moment, then nodded against his chest, feeling a swell of warmth and gratitude wash over her. In that moment, she knew that despite their differences, Alexander's concern for her was unwavering, a comforting reassurance in the midst of uncertainty. The following day, 8 days to the exhibition, Isabella paced the corridor outside Michael Thompson's office, her mind racing with anticipation. She had meticulously planned every detail of her scheme to gain access to the coveted jewelry designs. With a calculated glance around the empty hallway, she confirmed that the coast was clear, and she moved swiftly towards her target. She had learned from overhearing office gossip and subtle inquiries that Michael's office was located on the 4th floor of the building. Armed with this knowledge, Isabella navigated the maze of corridors until she reached her destination. Standing outside Michael's closed door, she took a moment to compose herself, her heart pounding with excitement. Carefully checking for any signs of movement or activity, Isabella confirmed that the office was empty. With a satisfied smirk, she turned the doorknob and slipped inside, closing the door softly behind her. The office was dimly lit, the only source of illumination coming from the faint glow of the overhead lights. Isabella's eyes darted around the room, taking in her surroundings with keen observation. She noted the cluttered desk strewn with papers and sketch pads, a telltale sign of Michael's presence. As she approached the desk, Isabella wrinkled her nose in distaste at the disarray. Ignoring the mess, she focused on her objective, finding the designs. Remembering Ryan's unwitting revelation about the type of designs Michael was working on, Isabella scanned the cluttered desk for any indication of the coveted files. Her gaze fell upon a blue file nestled amidst the chaos of papers and clutter. With a rush of excitement, Isabella reached for the file, her fingers trembling slightly with anticipation. Flipping it open, her eyes widened in awe at the sight before her. The designs sprawled across the pages were breathtaking, each intricately detailed and exquisitely crafted. Isabella's breath caught in her throat as she marveled at the beauty of the diamond necklace depicted on the page, the delicate filigree, the shimmering diamonds. It was a beautiful design. A triumphant smile played across Isabella's lips as she realized she had struck gold. With a deft hand, she retrieved her phone from her pocket and began discreetly snapping photographs of each page, ensuring that she captured every detail of the precious designs. As the camera clicked softly in the quiet office, Isabella couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. She had achieved her objective, acquiring the evidence she needed to further her sinister agenda. With the images safely stored on her phone, Isabella carefully replaced the file and slipped out of the office, her first mission accomplished. Isabella was swamped with work in her office, dealing with irate customers and feeling the weight of her tasks. She clenched her fist in frustration, longing to return to her position at Johnson Financial Group. Checking the time, she knew it was time to act on her next plan. First, she had already secured the designs for the exhibition. Second, she needed to make Michael unavailable on the day of the exhibition, bribing him to leave the city. Lastly, she would focus on revealing Arya's secret affair with her boss to the world. With purposeful strides, Isabella made her way out of her department, slipping away unnoticed by her colleagues. She headed towards the elevator, her heart pounding with anticipation. As the doors slid closed, she murmured to herself, "My plan must flow effortlessly without any flaws." The elevator dinged as it reached the 4th floor, and Isabella stepped out with a sense of purpose. She knew that Michael's office awaited her there, along with the key to her scheme. With a determined resolve, she made her way down the hallway, her mind already calculating her next move. Her mind ablaze with determination, Isabella swiftly made her way to Michael Thompson's office. As she approached the door, she rehearsed her plan in her mind, ensuring every detail was in place. This was going to be easy, Isabella said to herself. With a confident smile, she knocked lightly on the door. "Come in," a voice called from inside. Isabella entered the office, her gaze meeting Michael's with a charming smile. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson. I hope I'm not disturbing you," she greeted, her tone polite yet purposeful. Michael glanced up from his work, his expression curious. "Not at all, miss." He trailed off, prompting Isabella to fill in the blank. "Miss Johnson," Isabella supplied smoothly, her eyes meeting his with unwavering confidence. "I'm Isabella Johnson, and I work in the customer care department. I've heard so much about your exceptional talent as a jewelry designer, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to meet you in person." A flicker of surprise crossed Michael's features, his interest piqued by Isabella's unexpected visit. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Johnson. I've heard a lot about you, especially your father," he replied, his tone polite yet guarded. "To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit?" Taking a seat, Isabella leaned forward slightly, her expression earnest. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'll cut straight to the chase. I have a proposal that I believe could benefit you," she began, her tone confident. Michael's interest was immediately piqued. and he leaned in attentively. "Go on," he prompted, intrigued by Isabella's proposition. Isabella's smile widened as she laid out her plan. "I've managed to obtain exclusive photographs of the designs you've been working on for the exhibition. My proposal is simple. I want to submit these photographs to another company that is LH Star's competitor at the exhibition. This way, your designs will be showcased to a wider audience, giving you the recognition you deserve," Isabella replied, obviously keeping some truths away from him. Michael's eyes widened in surprise at Isabella's bold suggestion. "But how can we guarantee that the designs will be accepted?" he questioned, a hint of skepticism in his voice. Isabella's smile turned knowing as she revealed her trump card. "That's where you come in, Mr. Thompson. I propose that during the crucial period leading up to the exhibition, you take a temporary leave of absence from the city. No, I want you to resign from LH Star," she continued, her tone measured yet persuasive. She wanted LH Star to be in a tight spot during the days leading up to the exhibition. When they find out that the samples were the same, they would want to change the final designs to something else entirely. But if there was no Michael Thompson or any other jewelry designer, then LH Star is left scrambling to find a replacement at the last minute. With Michael's absence, they'll be forced to withdraw from the exhibition. Michael's eyebrows shot up in surprise at Isabella's audacious proposal. "And why would I do that?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "I mean, I'm being paid well here." Isabella leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Because, Mr. Thompson, I'm prepared to make it worth your while," she murmured, a coy smile playing on her lips. Michael's interest was immediately piqued, and he leaned in closer, his gaze locked with Isabella's. "And what exactly do you have in mind?" he inquired, his tone tinged with anticipation. Isabella's smile turned knowing as she revealed her offer. "Let's just say that if you agree to resign, there will be certain perks involved," she replied, her voice laced with seductive charm. Michael's eyes widened with intrigue, his interest piqued by Isabella's tantalizing offer. "Certain perks?" he echoed, his tone betraying a hint of excitement. Of course, Michael Thompson wouldn't be able to refuse such an offer. A man good at his job, but when it comes to an offer that involves money and pleasure, he never rejects it. Isabella nodded, a coy smile playing on her lips. "Indeed," she murmured, her voice dropping to a sultry whisper. "Consider it. Incentive for your considerable talents and acceptance to the proposal." A flicker of desire danced in Michael's eyes as he processed Isabella's implication, his resolve weakening in the face of such tempting inducement. With a slow nod, he returned his attention to the proposal, his mind swirling with possibilities. "Miss Johnson," Michael began, his voice tinged with a newfound confidence, "if you want me to consider your proposal, I also have certain requirements." Isabella's heart sank as she braced herself for Michael's demands. She knew that whatever he asked for would come at a steep price, but she was prepared to pay it if it meant securing his cooperation. "And what might those requirements be, Mr. Thompson?" Isabella asked, her tone carefully neutral. Michael leaned back in his chair, a sly smile playing on his lips. $8 million, he stated boldly, his gaze unwavering, and a night filled with passionate pleasure with you. Isabella's heart sank as she listened to Michael's proposition, her stomach churning with revulsion. How dare he make such a demand? The thought of being intimate with him made her skin crawl, but she knew that she couldn't let her personal feelings get in the way of her plans. With a forced smile, Isabella composed herself, her mind racing with calculations. $8 million and a night of pleasure, she repeated, her tone measured yet resolute. Very well, Mr. Thompson. Consider it a deal. Internally, Isabella recoiled at the thought of what she was about to do, but she knew that it was a necessary sacrifice for the success of her scheme. With a deep breath, she pushed aside her reservations and focused on the task at hand. Let's finalize the details of our arrangement, shall we? Isabella continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil raging within her. I'll ensure that the necessary arrangements are made, and you can rest assured that your desires will be fulfilled. Michael's eyes gleamed with satisfaction at Isabella's acquiescence, his smile smug and self-assured. Excellent, he replied, his tone oozing with confidence. I look forward to our collaboration, Miss Johnson. As they shook hands to seal the deal, Isabella suppressed a shudder of disgust, her mind already racing with plans to ensure that Michael's demands were met. She knew that she would have to play her part convincingly if she wanted to maintain control of the situation and keep her true intentions hidden. With a final nod of agreement, Isabella rose from her seat, her expression carefully neutral. Until our next meeting, Mr. Thompson, she murmured, her voice tinged with forced politeness. But just as she turned to leave, Michael's voice cut through the air like a knife, his words sending a chill down her spine. Wait, he said with a smirk, his tone dripping with menace. I want you, tonight. Isabella froze, her eyes widening in shock at his brazen demand. This wasn't part of the plan. She felt a wave of discomfort wash over her, the realization sinking in that she was dealing with a man who had no qualms about exerting his power in the most demeaning way possible. Mr. Thompson, don't... You think you're too in a hurry? Isabella managed to stammer, her voice trembling with anger and apprehension. Michael scoffed, his smirk widening into a predatory grin. I'm grabbing the opportunity while it's still available. Or don't you want me to accept your proposal? Tonight, I want you. Get my money ready by the next day. Isabella's heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to maintain her composure in the face of Michael's blatant intimidation. She felt a surge of panic rising within her, but she knew that showing weakness now would only give him more power over her. Isabella frowned. What the hell is wrong with this man? Consider it done. I'll do my part of the deal and make sure you do yours, Isabella replied. As she turned to leave, Isabella couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the dangerous game she was playing. With a deep breath, she pushed aside her fear and focused on the task at hand, knowing that she had to stay one step ahead of Michael if she wanted to come out on top. As Alexander settled into his office chair, he prepared for the Zoom call with Richard and Nathan, his trusted allies in LH Star. With a few clicks, the screen came to life, and he was greeted by their familiar faces. Good morning, gentlemen, Alexander greeted, his tone confident and authoritative. I trust you both are well? Richard and Nathan nodded in unison, their expressions mirroring Alexander's determination. Good morning, sir, they replied in unison. Alexander wasted no time in getting down to business. Richard, Nathan, I trust the designs for the exhibition are ready? He inquired, his gaze focused and intense. Richard nodded, a hint of pride in his voice. Yes, sir. Michael has just finalized the designs and they are absolutely stunning, he replied, his tone filled with admiration. With a sense of anticipation, Alexander leaned forward, eager to see the fruits of their labor. Show me, he commanded, his voice tinged with excitement. Richard swiftly shared his screen, revealing the intricate designs that Michael had painstakingly crafted. As the images filled the screen, Alexander's eyes widened in amazement, his admiration evident. These are exceptional, Richard, Alexander remarked, a smile spreading across his face. Michael has truly outdone himself. These designs will be the highlight of the exhibition. Richard beamed with pride at the praise, his confidence bolstered by Alexander's approval. Thank you, sir. I'll have the samples sent to the exhibitor immediately, he replied, already making arrangements to ensure everything was in order. Excellent, Alexander replied, his tone filled with satisfaction. Now, on to the next order of business. We need to finalize our marketing strategy for the exhibition. Nathan, I want you to reach out to our advertising partners and ensure that our campaign is ready to launch. Nathan nodded in acknowledgement, already making a mental note of the tasks ahead. Consider it done, sir, he replied, his voice brimming with determination. As the meeting continued, Alexander felt a sense of confidence wash over him. With the designs finalized and their marketing strategy in motion, he was certain that LH Star would emerge victorious at the exhibition. Little did he know, Isabella was already working tirelessly to undermine their efforts and tarnish their reputation. A few moments later, when Isabella stepped into her father's office, she felt a weight settle in the pit of her stomach. She knew she had to disclose the details of her agreement with Michael Thompson, but the thought of admitting it to her father filled her with a sense of trepidation. "Father," she began, her voice wavering slightly as she approached his desk. "I need to talk to you about something important." David glanced up from his work, his brow furrowing at the seriousness in Isabella's tone. "What is it, Isabella?" "You look troubled," he remarked, concern etched in his features. Was she about to tell him some good news? Summoning her courage, Isabella spoke, her words coming out in a rush. "I made a deal with Michael Thompson for the exhibition," she confessed. "He asked for $8 million. She told him, excluding the part where Mikkel had asked to sleep with her tonight. There was no way she would let her father know about that. It would be so embarrassing, and it would make him lose her favor from him." David's expression darkened at the mention of Michael's demand, his frown deepening with annoyance. $8 million? He echoed incredulously. Why on earth would he ask for such a staggering sum? And why didn't you negotiate the amount with him? Isabella swallowed hard, her throat feeling dry with apprehension. I didn't have a choice, Father," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He made it clear that he wouldn't cooperate without it." David's frustration mounted as he processed Isabella's words, his mind racing with the implications of Michael's demand. "We don't have that kind of money, Isabella," he replied, his tone tinged with concern. "Our company is already struggling as it is. How are we supposed to come up with $8 million? Isabella's heart sank at her father's words, a wave of guilt washing over her. She knew that their company was on the brink of bankruptcy, but she had never imagined that Michael's demands would push them to the edge. "I know, Father," she murmured, her voice heavy with regret. But I didn't know what else to do." David sighed heavily, his frustration evident as he ran a hand through his hair. "We'll have to find a way to come up with the money," he conceded, his tone resigned. "I'll see what I can do, but in the meantime, you need to make sure that Michael gets what he wants." Isabella nodded silently, her mind swirling with worry and uncertainty. She knew that giving in to Michael's demands was risky, but she also knew that she had no other choice if she wanted to salvage their plans for the exhibition. As David turned back to his work, Isabella smiled. The money was no issue, and the sleeping part would be easy. The next day, 7 days to the exhibition. As the door clicked shut and the blinds were drawn, the office became a cocoon of secrecy, shielding Isabella and Michael from prying eyes. With a sense of urgency and desire hanging in the air, they surrendered to the irresistible pull of passion. Isabella straddled Michael's lap, her naked form pressing against his as she moved with a primal rhythm. Her hands roamed freely over his body, igniting sparks of pleasure with every touch. With each upward thrust, she moaned softly, her breath mingling with his in a symphony of ecstasy. Michael's hands gripped her hips, guiding her movements as they danced together in a whirlwind of desire. His lips trailed a path of fire along her skin, leaving a trail of kisses in their wake. As her breasts bounced tantalizingly close to his face, he couldn't resist the urge to bury his face between them, drinking in her intoxicating scent. Amidst the symphony of their moans and the rhythm of their bodies, Isabella found herself lost in a haze of pleasure, her inhibitions melting away with each delicious thrust. "Oh, Michael," she gasped, her voice husky with desire. Yes, just like that. Michael's lips curved into a wicked grin as he continued to revel in the intoxicating sensation of their union. With a primal growl, he matched Isabella's movements, his thrusts growing more urgent and desperate with each passing moment. "Ha, do you like that?" he groaned. Yes, ha, Isabella moaned out. Their bodies moved together in perfect synchrony, a dance of passion and desire that left them both breathless and trembling with anticipation. As they reached the pinnacle of ecstasy, their moans grew louder, filling the air with the intoxicating sound of their shared pleasure. As he released his cum into the condom, Isabella moved away from him. Her movements were deliberate and devoid of any hint of pleasure or desire as she dressed herself, her face a mask of stoicism. She refused to give Michael the satisfaction of seeing her succumb to his manipulative games, her resolve unyielding despite the unsettling feeling of disgust that gnawed at her from within. As she adjusted her hair to its proper style, Isabella felt a surge of revulsion wash over her, the memory of their encounter leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. She just couldn't believe she had slept with this man last night, and also this morning. She couldn't comprehend why she had allowed herself to be manipulated by Michael. He had asked to have her last night. Why did he ask to have her this morning again? Michael watched her with a wicked grin on his face, his words dripping with false reassurance. Don't worry. No one will hear of what transpired between us these 2 days. I'll be leaving for Turkey tomorrow, he stated, his tone smug and self-assured. Isabella ignored his words, refusing to engage in any further conversation with him. She had completed her end of the bargain, and now it was up to Michael to uphold his part of the deal. With a steely glare, she warned him against betraying her trust. Make sure you do yours. And if a word of this gets out, consider yourself eliminated. You wouldn't want to see the other side of me, she warned, her tone laced with a cold determination that sent a shiver down Michael's spine. Without another word, Isabella turned on her heel and strode out of his office, her steps purposeful and resolute. As she waited for the elevator to arrive, she noticed Arya emerging from the next elevator and making her way towards Richard's office. The sight of her stepsister filled Isabella with a seething hatred, and she narrowed her gaze with disdain as she watched Arya stand in front of Richard's office. What was she doing there? The pieces of the puzzle seemed to click into place, confirming her mother's suspicions about Arya's affair with Richard James. As Isabella discreetly observed Arya heading towards Richard's office, her mind churned with malicious intent. She quickly took out her phone and snapped a picture of Arya entering the room, her fingers moving deftly as she captured the moment. As the camera clicked softly, a sinister grin played across Isabella's face, knowing she had the perfect ammunition to tarnish Arya's reputation. With the evidence securely stored on her phone, Isabella's mind raced with possibilities. She could use this picture to spread rumors about Arya's supposed affair with Richard, causing chaos and discord within the company. Arya's happiness would be her downfall, and Isabella relished the thought of watching her stepsister suffer. As Arya disappeared behind the closed door of Richard's office, Isabella felt a sense of vindication wash over her. She had the power to destroy Arya's life, and she wouldn't hesitate to use it to her advantage. With a wicked smile, she pocketed her phone and made her way towards the elevator, her mind already concocting a plan to unleash her vengeance upon her unsuspecting stepsister. In her mind, Isabella relished the thought of Arya's inevitable downfall. Let's see how you'll be able to get yourself out of this mess, stepsister, she mused, a cold determination gleaming in her eyes. Your happiness won't last for long, not while I'm around. With a final glance towards Richard's office, Isabella stepped into the waiting elevator, her heart pounding with anticipation. She was ready to watch Arya's world crumble, and she would revel in every moment of her stepsister's suffering.